Right, let me say a pleasant good evening to former Government Minister Dr. Glen Ramadarsingh. Pleasant good evening, sir, and welcome.
Hey, good afternoon to you and all your listeners.
Yeah, well, viewers as well, because we're on television. I want to thank you so
Oh,
much for taking time out and linking with us. Um, yeah, one of the things I want to touch on, because under the People's Partnership, you were Minister of the People and Social Development. And many people, of course, would lay claim to the fact that you have you work night and day to help those who most vulnerable in our society. And looking at an article here, an army of beggars, a proliferation of migrant and local beggars and their children on the nation's streets has been observed in recent times. And advocates are now calling for state intervention. Advocates say the social problem whereby migrant families, most often women and children, position themselves in public spaces such as street corners and traffic lights and plead for aid requires a timely social response. In other instances, it is easier to earn a living through begging than through employment. That's basically the feedback that you're getting from some people out there. Now, we understand the whole economic factor. I mean, we're coming out of a pandemic, and this seemed to be on the rise even before the pandemic hit. But how do we deal with these matters? I mean, it's something that you simply cannot hide from anymore or simply just sweep under the carpet. These are serious things, and each one of us, I'm sure, whether you're at a traffic light, whether you're walking through any city in Trinidad and Tobago, you are witnessing this firsthand. What are some of the steps that we need to take? And is the minister, Donna Cox, and her team, are they behind the eight ball in all of this?
well, I think that you would recall that we had a very concerted effort to rehabilitation of the street dwellers in Port of Spain and other cities. And we would have had consultation with the mayors and the chairman of all the different corporations, and in particular, Port of Spain. And we had successfully removed hundreds of street dwellers, and by a very strategic program involving the police and the health ministry, we would have gotten back some of them into homes and hospitals, the first set. And then we would have taken in about 125 into different institutions for rehabilitation. And out of that, we had 60 in a graduation program in Piparo, and 10 were put back to work in the capital city. And this was with the unit that was developed for that purpose within the Ministry of the People and Social Development. And after the PNM got into power, they had nothing to do with the unit. They starved the unit of resources. They took out the policy makers. They took out the strategic advisors, the scientists, the psychologists, psychiatrists who were adding value to the program, and the NGOs in particular stopped receiving funding. You would recall Vision on a Mission, and we had several other organizations involved, and they dismantled the program and then kept promises. And what came out is that they had no plan, no vision to bring these people back into productive capacity, or to make amends with their family, or to integrate them back into society. And the problem proliferated. And I think Minister Donna Cox has a big plan and a building that she has purported to work about, but nothing has come out of it. The PNM has been a dismal failure. There has not been any progress. It is something that keeps mushrooming, and it leads to disorder. It leads to, now we have the Venezuelans now who would obviously see a pattern of behavior and begin to add to
that. But let me ask you something, Dr. Ramadarsingh. And what I found interesting is that you had a lot of outreach programs, and I don't know if people are totally out of sync with the fact when we talk about people who are under the, below the economic line, I mean, basically poverty, who are most vulnerable in our society. These are individuals who basically cannot come out from their environment, from their space, come into Port of Spain, jump into a taxi, and try to see how best they can get a grant. These programs need to be out there in the communities and easily accessible. And I think a lot of data is lost when you hear these reports about how many people are benefiting from these grants, and whether it be food cards or whatever kind of assistance. A lot of information there is a bit skewed because, again, these programs are not getting into the community like they should have when you were there under the Ministry of the People. And what say you?
Well, what we did was a direct impact, because what we realized for the Ministry of People to work, it had to be directly out there in the communities, and we started a caravan of taking the programs throughout the country. What really inspired me is that a department did a poverty map of my constituency, and they showed me in different colors which were the poorest communities, and I said, we have to go there first. And I went in the constituency there first, and I saw the most vulnerable. And when we started to tackle that, it got easier when you went to the other areas. And I thought we'd do the same thing in the country. And we basically went to the poorest areas of the country and started to find out. And this is interesting, Mikee K. When we did the scientific data, 65% of the people who came there did not come for a grant. They came to find out how to get their ID card. They came to find out how to send the child to university. They came to find out how to access gate. They came to find out how to get a surgery. So people were really starved of information, access to information and guidance to where they can get self-development or processing documents that they need to get additional help. And only 35% of the people came there who were poor and dispossessed and vulnerable. So that what you have to do, first of all, do not be afraid of the people. The people are not the enemy. The people are the ones that put you in power. Because the politicians campaign in the squatting areas. They campaign in the areas where people are getting trouble to pay rent, with the single mothers and the people with large families who cannot put food on the table. They get the votes from there. But when in government, those are the last persons that they wish to see.
Yeah, and again, they had the program, of course, what you're talking about was a program where full assessment was done, because behind all of these individuals, there's a story of life. People, for whatever reason, unfortunately, have found themselves in a position where they're dependent on assistance. And again, they exist in every society. But taking this assessment, one has to look, and according to what you did, was basically a social development assembly line, finding out what they wanted access to, if they needed ID cards, and then bringing them back into society as productive citizens. Is it that simply these programs now, when you hear about they're earmarked a building to do some work and so forth, is it just about gaining political traction and not dealing with the core problem?
Yeah, I think the ministry went back into inertia, it went back into disassembly, and it went back into mystery. And the people have suffered. They continue to call out for help. They have gotten immune. Now they believe now they will not get help. And there has to be some breakthrough, some social revolution where people get up and say, listen, we demand social justice and social protection from a government that has oil and gas funds that it is spending on our behalf. And the Kamla Prasad period where the people came out to grab power for change has to be redone again. It has to have a revolution of the people to say, enough is enough. We are broken and beaten and battered, and we want to help our brother. We want to be our brother's keeper, and we want to be a better neighbor. And that revolution has to take place. And I think on many occasions you have stirred the passion of the country with your colleagues on this frequency. And the time has to come when the people will demand what is rightfully theirs.
And let me ask you this, Dr. Ramadarsingh. I mean, looking back at it now, I mean, because you were basically everywhere. I mean, people joked about that. I mean, if you just need to whisper, and here comes Dr. Glen Ramadarsingh, some assistance, something there. Looking back at it now, and then looking at it for what it is today, what hurts you the most? What has disappointed you the most as far as looking at what has happened with this whole social development structure?
what hurts me the most is the differently able children, the cerebral palsy center that we built in Castlefield, that they never got proper access to the swimming pool area where they got rehabilitation, to the areas where they were supposed to have cooking classes and drama classes and music classes. It never took a life because it was a UNC idea and a UNC minister and a people's ministry. They have starved that center. They've put out the children. They no longer have food cards. In our time, we had given them grants where they have the tube there. Some of them need to be fed by tubes. What hurts me the most is the way that differently abled children have been treated. And secondly, because you didn't ask me what was my second, but my second today is the socially dispossessed, the vagrants who could have been given medical help, who could have been integrated back with their families, or who could have been given a chance to have a normal, productive life. They were denied because of the work that we did, that they wanted discontinued for political purposes so that they could say, don't worry with the UNC. Now the country is paying for it and paying dearly at a price that hurts me very deeply.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, everyone is talking about it, even to the point that someone asked me the other day if it is that they're moving from other areas. You have people who are socially displaced. A lot of them seem to be going to areas where perhaps there's some sort of NGO or some kitchen that is there, a facility that is helping them. And everyone is asking, I mean, what is really going on? As I said, every traffic light, every corner, someone has their hand out. Some are there with children. Some are there, they're elderly, and you know, it really and truly makes you wonder. And again, there are those who said it's easier to earn a living through begging than through employment. And I believe that may be a small percentage, but there's something that the ministry needs to do. And if they had to do something...
Well, I mean, if you trace your mind back to when we were there and really try to identify the population of vagrants in the capital city, you will recall that we had cleaned the place up. We had cleaned the tongue. And, you know, it's a tragedy that they have repopulated the capital city, because it is our national pride, the national city. And when tourists or people who come to Trinidad for the first time, they see that we have the streets laden with people who have no hope, what message does it send to the rest of the world? The Brian Lara Promenade, our great cricketer, whose name there, what does it say? It says that the government has not instilled a sense of pride in the capital city to keep it clean, to keep people healthy, engaged and supported. And that's a sad tale for a nation that has oil and gas wealth.
Yeah. I want to thank you so much again for taking time out and linking with us here this evening. It's definitely been a pleasure.
Thank you for connecting the dots to the work that we did and the work that we most certainly shall have to do another time and again.
Thank you so much. All the best of luck to you, and do have a wonderful season.
Thank you, Mikey, and all our listeners and viewers. Have a great night.
Thank you so much.